I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all members are present, and Mr. Shea, are you on the phone?
Unmute, Brian.
Is he on there, do you know?
He is.
Okay. Brian's on the phone, we presume, so. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, first up we have Paula Hazelwood, CEO, and Shalimar Mazzetta.
It's all good. It's a mouthful, but
Yeah. Rural Development Manager, Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation presentation and update on Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see everybody here this morning. So we're going to do a little bit different. Usually I will give my update first, but I'm going to ask Shalimar to do hers, and then I'm going to come in behind her. And I'm sorry, but we have a lot to share, so it's going to be just a little bit. So please
That's
bear
okay.
with us.
Take your time.
Hi, guys. Lots going on in the county as of late. We've had a great summer. Our towns have seen even more people showing up to events that they've been doing thanks to advertising and things combined with WIDA. We're all just trying to work together and make sure that everyone's coming out to Donny Days and Hoodoo Days and all the fun things that we have going on in rural Pot County. So with that being said, we have had recently a nice little uptick in ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. One of the groundbreakings we did was Judge Richard Distillery. It's going to be a bourbon distillery that's going to be in Carson. They're building a new building that will have upper story housing as well. So looking forward to that happening. You won't be able to get your bourbon for about a year and a half probably. So just hold the horses a little bit. Next we had Megan Borup Photography. She opened a photography studio also in Carson. Carson's had a lot going on lately, which I'm pretty excited about. She is an established photographer from Villisca, but she found a building in Carson that she really liked and is establishing herself over here as well. So excited to see that, and nice to have somebody that has some real following behind her. She's got a Facebook group of about 1,500 people that follow her, which I think is pretty cool that she works pretty hard social media wise to promote and help and that kind of stuff. We had a really fun ribbon cutting with TFS Agronomy or TFS Ag up in Carson. That's a new building that they put up, 2 new buildings, and Randy Evans Seed. Instead of doing a traditional ribbon cutting because it was 2 different businesses, we put them in a side-by-side and let them drive through the ribbon. So I thought it was really cool. It's a fun piece of fun. Currently I'm sitting at 26 projects. All of those projects are something I'm actively working on week by week. Some highlights that I'll talk about are Project Pineapple. We're looking at roughly a $15 million investment into Carter Lake. Excited to see that coming in. We're currently in a developer's agreement and a TIF discussion with the city right now. So that's taking up quite a little portion of our time. Another one that I'm just really excited to see, the Hamilton Group is looking at helping the city of Macedonia put upper story housing in downtown Donny. So we are looking into that. We've been very lucky to be able to talk some local developers into giving us a pro forma and doing it at a much reduced cost so that the city could afford it. And I'm just excited to see that kind of moving forward. Any questions on those 2 things that have to do with project work in rural Pot County? Up till now. Okay. It's all really, really good. Everything's going great. Next up, the Cities Program, which used to be called the Cities Program that iWest Foundation did, which is a granting source to give money and grants to cities on infrastructure, placemaking, economic development, and housing, has been turned into Vibrant Rural Communities. We're calling it VIBE for short. And luckily, we have been able to take it over. So we took it over as of May of 2023. They rolled it out officially June of 2023 into July of 2023. And then we were informed that we had roughly a month and a half to get applications in. to apply for the 2024 funding. Application LOIs were due on September 1st for the first round of VIBE. Historically, in the past 6-ish years, our numbers of what the cities have been requesting through the cities program has been declining rather steeply. There was a point we were at roughly $1 million that was getting requested. At this point, last year we were around 200,000. I mean, we all know the cities need money, so what was happening, so on and so forth, we're not sure, but we're gonna fix the problem. In the very short time frame that we had, we were able to request a little over $400,000 this year from iWest Foundation. Applications are due on September 15th with results coming out sometime in November probably.
So is that still running through the board then?
For iWest Foundation?
The city's program those used to run through the board.
The Pot County Board of Supervisors?
Yeah,
All the money flows through the county.
I'm sorry, yes,
Yes,
the back end,
yes,
yes,
yes.
absolutely, that will still happen.
okay.
That portion of it, I believe, is the same. I haven't, we
haven't got there yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
But yes, it is structured to be the same, to flow through the same.
yeah.
Okay,
But there's mainly a name change from cities to
It's a name change, and it's also, they're trying to be more inclusive of what they'll cover. I think the best way to put it is what iWest Foundation wants to fund in the cities are improvements, not deferred maintenance. And I really appreciate that because it's a very clear line. If you are doing something that you're upgrading your water pipe from a 4-inch to a 6-inch, that's something they're interested in because you're improving your city. If you're replacing a 4-inch with another 4-inch, that's not something they're interested in funding because it's only gonna let you stay the same size that you are, right? So that's the purpose of it, is to fund improvements, not deferred maintenance. We have 4 meetings a year. We have changed it from, because I know you were on that previously, Scott, we have changed it from being where the mayors or whoever you wanted was the appointed person, and we changed it to where the city clerks are the appointed person. And I feel like we're doing it over luncheons. We're just trying to make it a lot more friendly and a lot easier to use for people and easier to connect. So far, it's going really well.
so there's gonna be 4 grant cycles a year?
No, there's gonna be 4 meetings a year
Okay.
that they are required to attend, and you have to attend 3 out of the 4 a year, otherwise you cannot apply.
So is there just gonna be 1 grant cycle?
Just 1 grant cycle in September, yes, the
Okay.
3rd grant cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Before you move on to your next one, we
Sure.
spoke about the applications and the $400,000. How many applications were there?
They're not.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6. Are they still requiring a 50% match from the,
Minimum, yes.
you know, that makes it harder for the cities to put together a larger size project when 50% match is required from them.
It can, yeah. Yeah, I think it does. I will say that the iWest Foundation has allowed us to bring in McClure to kind of help us through this transitional time of figuring out the projects and that kind of stuff, and what other fundings we could possibly pile onto that. For the most part, though, if you're doing a project that you should be applying to vibrant rural communities for, it's kind of, don't you kind of have to do the project anyway? It's for economic development, right? Like it's different putting up an amphitheater versus something infrastructure wise that needs to happen in your city, because you need to provide more water for housing. So that's something that does need to happen, and you should be able to make the 50%. I kind of think a 50% buy-in is reasonable. Look, if they ever wanted to change it to where you only had to have a 1 to 3 match, I'm in 100%. But I do feel like a 1-to-1 match is reasonable, and we can figure out ways to fund other stuff.
Very similar to the RPCIC, the capital stack that we're looking at with McClure, to add on to those dollars. So hopefully that'll,
And
be
any of
able to
that would
help.
count towards their 1-to-1 match.
Yes.
So McClure will work with those smaller towns and try to be part of the 50%.
Yes.
Already are, yeah,
They
they
already
already
are.
are with us, with Shalimar.
Yeah. And I don't see that happening forever, because I just don't think financially we would want to, I don't know if financially we want to do that forever. But for right now, it's really helpful to help our clerks learn more about what other grants are out there, how to search them out, how to find them. The way I've looked at it with McClure is, I've said, I know that you could just do and not teach, and I need you to teach while you're doing, so that they can hopefully learn and expand their knowledge. knowledge base as well.
Yeah, because as you know, some of those grant applications, I mean, those, it's complex.
Yeah.
And it's time consuming, so.
It's interesting that you had the clerks to get in on this rather than the mayors and so forth. And,
I adore my mayors. In my history, city clerks stick around for a long time.
and they know a lot more about the
Mayors are
business.
elected officials, so it can change a lot more. And so I wanted to get them, and part of what the original cities that they loved was they all got to sit around and talk and share information. In my opinion, one of the best things that happened at our first Vibe meeting was we ended the meeting 20 minutes early and everyone stuck around and talked to each other. And they weren't talking about like, how's Sally or how's your kid or whatever. They were like, there was people asking questions about what projects they were working on. Hey, when you did that, how did you do this? What did you look at this way? Hey, have you looked at this fund to look at? Have you, utilized this person's really good at this and blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what you want to see, right? Because if they're all sharing knowledge with each other, then we're just making each other better overall. So I was thrilled to see that they stuck around, they talked, they engaged. It was really good.
Good job.
Any other questions about Vibe? Advanced Southwest Iowa is going to do a rural bus tour again this year. Last year, you guys joined us on the rural bus tour, and it was one of the biggest highlights from the survey that we did was having the Pot County Board of Supervisors on that bus was huge for everybody. So what I do is I take our city clerks and our mayors to Des Moines for a day. We're going to meet with USDA, we're gonna meet with DOT, we're gonna meet with Debbie Durham, and we're going to have a panel on things that are happening across the state in rural towns that are similar size to what our towns have. I did shorten it a little bit, so we are gonna be leaving Avoca at 8 a.m. and we will be home by 5. It's October 26th, and I will get with Jeanette to make sure that it's posted so that all of you can attend. But please pencil that into your schedule. It's really important you guys are there. Like I said, the mayors and the clerks absolutely adored getting to be on the bus with you guys. I'm gonna give you donuts and coffee in the morning. I'll give you really good food at lunch, and I will give you alcohol on the way home. So, just saying, big picture, really good here. And I think you will enjoy it. Susan went last year, Tim went last year. Either of you wanna speak up about how fun it was?
I can't speak to the fun,
How
but
great I am.
there was a lot of information gathered, and
Yes.
the speakers that you had come in really hit on some relevant talking points that resonated with everyone who was there.
Yeah, and the follow-up that our clerks got from that was huge. They got Teresa Greenfield sending direct emails to her person in this area saying, you need to figure out how to take care of this for XYZ, which is exactly what we want. So, okay. RP, yes.
Before you go on, could you send us a list of those current projects that are being proposed?
Just the two that I talked about, or
The ones that are,
No,
for
you're
Vibe?
live.
I don't think I can I?
why,
It's gonna be public record.
I guess if it's gonna be public record, yeah, I can.
whether we're gonna be basically the funder of them.
Yeah, I can,
Okay.
sure.
And we still on the back end need to figure out how that's going to happen with the Iowa West Foundation. I think we're setting it up basically the same way as we have the match for the Infrastructure Coalition, so.
Okay.
On that note, RPCIC, everything is going really well with that. Projects are still all moving forward well. We did have one city that backed out. So we have roughly $26,000 this afternoon. We will just be deciding how that's redistributed. And then we will be taking photos the first and second week of October, so please keep an eye out to your calendar. I'll send it to all of you, but I would love as many of you to come out and take pictures with the city clerks and the mayor with the amounts that we're giving and so on and so forth. So just a heads up on that. Any questions about RPCIC?
Yeah, your meeting is, you said this afternoon on the 26th, that was returned.
Yes.
Who's meeting?
Well, Brian's on it, Bethany, Brenda, Matt Hinkes, Paula, myself.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Did you want to listen in on that, Tim?
This afternoon.
It's at 1:30.
I'm booked this afternoon.
Okay, well, we will let you know what the outcome is for sure.
We have one project that went way over, that the bid that they got was way under what they actually are gonna have to pay. And so we're not at that 24.2% mark where we are with the rest of the projects. So more than likely, we're going to take those funds and shift that into there to help fund more of a current project that we're already funding. And it's one of the smaller projects that we funded. It's gonna get the rest of that, is what I think.
Potentially,
Potentially. That's what I think is gonna happen, but
we'll see.
it's not wholly up to me, so
We'll keep you posted on how much and
I will. Yeah. Happily, I'll shoot you an email afterwards and let you know what
we
was decided.
we could use that to fund our dry hydrant project. Anyway, go ahead.
I think if you loop this, the whole board in, it would be
Yeah.
the best.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, finally, I'll finish up with, last year I made it my goal. I have been really bummed that we have not been represented as much as I wanted us to be on boards in and around the state as well as the country. And that we are not representing Southwest Iowa to the best of our abilities because we are not showing up at those meetings and getting our opinion put out there. I worked really, really hard on this. I'm super excited. I have been appointed to Empower Rural Iowa by the governor. So I'm super excited to have a Southwest Iowa representative on there, and I will let you guys know more as that comes to fruition and what it looks like. I was also appointed to the board of directors for the National Rural Economic Development Association. They do a lot with, they write a paper every year and go to Des Moines or go to Washington DC and meet with a whole bunch of legislators and leaders to talk about what the rural issues are as far as the country goes. So I am really excited to be appointed to that board.
What's the name of that organization?
It's called the National Rural Economic Development Association, NREDA.
Those positions are for 1 year, 4 years?
2 years.
2 years?
Yep.
Well, congratulations.
NREDA and the other one are both for 2 years.
Okay, good. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it, and I will represent us well, so. That's what I got. Sorry, I know it was long.
Perfect. Any
Wasn't
questions
bad.
for Shalimar?
There's still some money left in the city's fund. Is that gonna be accounted for? As we make the change?
I'm sorry, the cities, I'm
Well,
not
we
aware of that. That would be
Well,
probably
it's
something.
what the county still has was in.
Oh,
in the
really?
Fund, yeah.
Well, if you tell me there's money, I can spend it.
Well,
Well-
we'd have an obligation with Iowa West.
If
for-
there's grants out there and spoken for, that's fine. I didn't know. I don't know.
Right,
I
that's
just
what,
know that there's $126,000 left there.
right.
Then I would assume those funds would be utilized first and then additional funds will
Right.
supplement on the back end.
We'll have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's a grant that's still active and I
That's
just.
what I'm wondering.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I
the
found it.
information sharing from who previously did the city's program to us has not been good. So we were not given a lot of information and we're kind of just,
Basically had to start from
Well,
scratch.
just a FYI.
Well, really, the MAPPA didn't have, 'cause they were-
Basic information.
Okay,
we didn't get a ton from them.
okay, and then
So-
Matt Angus, I gotta believe there's some accountability there somewhere, so,
He actually shared the most historical documents with us.
okay.
Any other
Okay,
questions?
anything else? Okay, I'm gonna move right into my report then. Thank you, Shalimar, appreciate that. First of all, I always tell you, thank you so much for your ongoing support. We couldn't do the work that we're doing without the support of you and our other investors. So, I always like to start that out. So, real quick, just some items of interest that I hope you're excited about as we are. So we have been invited to the League of Municipalities in Cedar Rapids on the 22nd of this month to do a panel discussion and presentation on the Rural Potawatomi County Infrastructure Coalition. So I will moderate that panel, and Chairman Shea will be on the panel, as well as Brenda Mainwaring from the Iowa West Foundation and Michael Holton from the City of Trainer. So we will all convene in Cedar Rapids in about 2 weeks and give that presentation. So we're excited about that. We are also hosting, when I say we, the entire community, but it's going to be held in Council Bluffs, the Professional Developers of Iowa Conference. It has not been in Council Bluffs or Potawatomi County since, I think, 2012. So we're really excited to have them back. Thank you very much for your sponsorship for that event. We really appreciate it. One of the things, I'd sent some information to Janetta and to Supervisor Shea, but As a sponsor, the county has the opportunity to actually have a booth in the exhibitor hall. I don't know if that's something you're even remotely interested in, but I think it might be a good idea. It couldn't hurt anything. So I will follow up and you can let me know. Who do I follow up with, Jeanette?
Yes.
To see? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and then probably Craig and.
Craig might come
Craig
up
and-
with some thoughts.
Craig and probably conservation.
Well, and another aspect is that we would love to have some of you join us during the conference. It's September 27th through the 29th, so a Wednesday through a Friday. Obviously, it's a huge time commitment, so, you know, don't expect you to attend every waking minute, but there's really good receptions, some really good learning sessions, and I have forwarded the agenda. So again, if you're interested in attending, please let me know and I'll get you registered.
I'm presenting on the 27th in the afternoon.
Exactly. So the first thing I want to do, and obviously we have a lot of active projects in our pipeline, and we'd be here all day if we had to review all of those, but I want to review some main ones. The projects that Shalimar talked about obviously are specific to rural Potawatomi County. The projects that I'm going to talk about in the active pipeline are all specific to the city of Council Bluffs. So just so you know that. Project Link is the first one I want to talk about. I started working with them in April of 2022. And this came as a lead from a Omaha-based realtor that we have formed a really great relationship with. They are proposing a cold storage campus, which includes 5 buildings. Phase 1 of the cold storage campus would be 315,000 square feet. That's the first building, that's the cold storage building. And then the second building would be 210,000 square feet, which is a transload industrial building. Additional 3 buildings are being proposed for that site, 2 318,000 square foot buildings, which are rear load industrial buildings, and then an additional 1 building of 418,000, which is a cross dock building. Location, East Manawa Drive. So just south of the National Concrete Building on the east side of the road. You guys are all looking at me like that's crazy, but that is what it is. It is a campus. They do have a global end user in hand, and so that is what the cold storage facility is going to, the first building is going to be built for their end user. The projected capital investment, we're currently working with the city on their developers agreement, but the first 2 buildings, about $105 million. All phases estimated at build out $180 million. The job creation is to be determined until we're able to connect directly with the end user/users. We won't know that, but I will report back to you at a later time. They are scheduled to close on that property in October. One of the things that I've been doing on all of the projects that I'm working specific to Council Bluffs and Shalimar, I started doing some on the county as well, is going in and looking up what the current assessed value, that base value is currently. Right now, it's assessed at $197,800. Their current net annual taxes are $3,992.
What, Paula, is there rail to that too?
Yes, and that was one of the big reasons why they needed to locate there.
Okay, because
Was
there's
the
gonna be a
rail.
lot of, I'm assuming a lot of trucks too, right?
I would say the majority is gonna come via rail, but yes, there will be some definite truck traffic, and they have done a traffic study.
Coming out of there.
One of the cool things about this company is that early on, and they really have not been, like, I'm not under an NDA or anything, I just, always like to keep it kind of on the down low. But this company actually came into the community very open and honest and transparent and held a couple of town hall meetings with especially the neighbors. It required a zoning change, so you have to notify the neighbors within a certain distance. And I think they had 2 different town hall meetings. One at, I think, the library, and the other one at the church that's across the street. So very transparent and cool company to work with, major developer. So obviously I don't know what the future assessed value is going to be, but I mean, you can kind of figure and do the math. And so property taxes are obviously going to be at some point way more than $3,992.
Will that be TIFT, Paula?
It will be, Tim.
What will the duration of that be?
I don't know. We're still working those details out. It's a, $180 million project is a pretty sizable TIF, but trying to, figure out the least amount of years is how the city always, it's gapped, right? So what their project need is. So that is still being negotiated. Any questions on that? Project Van, started working with them in July of 2022, and that came from one of our Des Moines-based brokers. I actually sent him this property, and he submitted it to the company that he is working with. Slated for warehouse distribution, either two 400,000 square foot warehouse distribution buildings or one 800,000 square foot building, depending on what their end user is going to be. The estimated capital investment is 60 million, again, to be determined on the jobs because we're not connected yet with the end user. Again, current assessed value, this was a piece of farm ground. It has to undergo a zoning change. It is currently assessed at 79,100. Annual net taxes are 1,944. So again, don't know what it'll be assessed at, but you know, they're scheduled to close here at the end of November. And so, you know, construction will commence, and there is ample infrastructure that needs to be run, which the city is looking into doing that to serve both sides of the area that they're locating, which is Highway 6 to the east. So it would serve this site as well as potentially the site across the street that Iowa Western Community College currently owns. Any questions on that?
Off of Highway 6, you said?
Yes.
Highway 6 runs east and west, so it's to the north and the south.
This particular one is on the north side, but we also have a client that we're working with on the south side parcel
That was
as
tipped
well. I'm sorry, what?
That one's gonna be tipped as well.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm glad you're asking that, Tim, because, you know, our property taxes, I mean, we have no choice but to TIF these, or else we're not gonna get these projects. So, because our property taxes, they can go to Omaha and build the same building and pay, and that's, you know, by no fault of you guys or anybody in this room, it's just the way it is. So TIF is a tool that we utilize a lot in the city of Council Bluffs, but it's not like we go into the project just saying, hey, we're gonna give you TIF. We never do that. It's always on the back end when those incentive discussions happen. They have to prove that they have a gap in the project, and this is how we fill it.
Well, and those
Utilizing
gaps,
TIF for
those
urban
gaps are usually
revitalization.
public improvements.
I'm sorry, yes, and that's what the sanitary sewer and the water line, that's what's going to be used to run it up East Highway 6 to serve these two parcels.
Which will serve some other parcels along the
It
way.
could, very well, yeah, and that's something that we've definitely looked at. It could open up some other developable property. And then the last current active project I want to talk about is Project McGuire, which has started working with them in 2023. March of 2023, it came directly to us from a site selection team. They actually have two different site selection teams working on their behalf. I've been working with their incentive people. You've seen it come out in the news, proposed 96-bed behavioral health hospital, 71,000 square feet, and they're looking at the 24th Street corridor. So you can imagine that there's going to be some additional information coming down the pike with that. We did have a meeting with them, the end user, very good company. They gave us a really high-level overview of what the project is going to look like, and it's, I believe, it's going to be a very nice facility in the area that they're proposing. So we have helped them do, we actually, through Iowa Economic Development Authority, they have a couple programs that we use. Normally, medical is not an eligible use, but I did some research and found that they had honored that previously in another Iowa-based community. And we have targeted jobs, which we can only use in 4 Iowa communities. Council Bluffs is one of them. And so they tentatively have approved the use of targeted jobs for this facility. And that site is already designated urban revitalization, Tim, so it's not going to be tipped. It's already got the designation on it, just so you know, from when Mills Fleet Farm was looking in that same area. Any questions on Project McGuire? And then just really quickly, so we track everything. I mean, obviously you can tell by the data that we give you. So currently, through July 31st of 2023, the advanced team, we've landed 8 projects. We've worked on many, many more, but we've landed 8. And I know we've landed in August and now early September, at least 3 additional, but that equivalates to about 116.4 million in CapEx and about 220 new and or retained jobs. So, and we're happy to share this list with you I'm not going to review all of them. I'm going to review a few of Council Bluffs ones though. So Ice Cap was one of those. It started working on phase 2 in February of 2022, and it came directly from the company and the Tittman Group, which is a cold storage expert. So this phase 2 of the cold storage project, 160,000 square feet, phase 1 was exactly the same. Capital investment is, and sorry, I'm not texting people, my notes are on my phone, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys that early on. CapEx is 67 million. Phase 1 was 43 million, and their job creation is 150 new full-time equivalent employees. And they also receive targeted jobs through the state, and their wages are up there. I mean, they're between $20 and $40 an hour, or $25 and $40 an hour, just depending on where they hit in their skill set.
Paul, before you leave that, can I ask one question? Do you know how they're doing? Are they filling up the first?
They're doing very well, Tim. That's why they launched into phase 2 so rapidly. So they've got some really good substantial customers.
Phase 2 has access to rail too?
No, just one.
Just phase 1.
Yeah. Yep. So the prior assessed value on this property, again, it was farm ground, was 28,000 for the full site. The current assessed value, and I'm assuming that this is probably not fully assessed, is currently at 16 million. So prior they paid 688 in property taxes when it was a piece of farm ground. So, and I actually mentioned it to Supervisor Shea. I could not get on this parcel to look at what the assessed value. I could see the assessed value, but I couldn't see the tax piece. So I don't know if there was a glitch or what had happened with that, but I told him I told Supervisor Shea I would follow up with him. So we've pretty much assisted this company from start to construction to, obviously now being able to work with them. We have for professional developers of Iowa, we have a tour scheduled and an industry tour scheduled with them the Wednesday that it starts, and we have about 40 individuals that are interested in taking that tour. So again, if any of you are interested, let me know. And then the second one is also a phase 2 project. Really started working with this company in 2018. And because COVID hit, things were kind of sidelined, but continued obviously to talk to them. It came to us directly from the company, and it is phase 2 warehouse distribution, 250,000 square feet. This is Opus Group down on River Road. I'm sure all of you have driven by those buildings to see. Their first, phase 2 was estimated at 30 million capital investment, and about the same for phase 1. A little smaller of a footprint on the phase 1 building. Prior assessed value 25,400. Currently assessed at 8.2 plus 7.1 million. And it's not fully assessed. So those things will continue to track. When I come in again, hopefully some of that information will be available and I'll be able to get that to you. Any questions on those landed projects?
Real quick, getting back to the cold storage campus. Right?
Yes.
Okay, 5 buildings?
Yes,
in the
yes,
end.
sir.
Okay. I'm very familiar with cold storage.
Mhm.
Miller Cold Storage,
Yes.
little Nash Finch warehouses down there. This is all for foodstuffs?
Yes.
Okay.
Not all the buildings, just the cold storage piece.
Right,
Yes.
cold storage piece, okay. That's gonna be a huge facility.
I know.
A huge facility.
And the end user is huge, and you'll understand when we're able to share who that is. You'll understand the reasoning behind it.
Okay, all right. Very, very, very interesting. I'm impressed with how you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. And just really quickly before I close and answer any questions, our kitchen council is doing very, very well. We have 17 current members there. It's 3,000 square feet of tremendously state-of-the-art commercial kitchen space. It was designed to hold 20 food entrepreneurs, and we're at 17. We've onboarded 4 new members in 2023. We have 6 on an active wait list. And one of our newest members, Humble Roots, they are our first FDA-approved member for consumer packaged goods. So very proud of Kitchen Council. Holly Benson is the managing director there for us on the advanced team. She's done an amazing job. That packaged good, it's a carrot-based versus tomato-based pasta sauce. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll get you some. I've already shared some with people. People like it. Either you like it or you don't. But I've been hearing good things. So If you have a chance, look them up and give them a taste. And then the other piece that is most recent is the startup space, collaborative space that we've been working on. And so I know we've had some media exposure based on the Google announcement, and thank you to the Board of Supervisors that were able to attend and share in that announcement with us. We had initially applied for the Google Community Grant, and they came back to us and said, we love this project. It's much bigger than the community grant. Let us go a different route. And so obviously on the day last month, they announced that they gave us $250,000 as our seed gift to start the entrepreneurial space. We are looking at 6,700 square feet at 20 Arena Way between full-fledged and Big Kells. And we did receive another $200,000 commitment yesterday for the space. And we've put in another grant with one of our foundations for all of the furnishings. So hopefully we're moving up with our capital campaign, and hopefully we will be able to start construction probably sometime in the winter. The model for this is self-sustaining. So it's a membership-driven model, and we already have an abundance just through the work that Nikki Ferguson has done in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, not just in Pot County, but in the entire region. We already have a great deal of interest. And so it will have, dedicated offices, dedicated tables where you can, keep your stuff there, and it also have hot desks so people can just come in, and if they're in town for something, they can certainly come in and do a day rate or whatever the case may be. But we have the opportunity to build this out as something substantial, and we want to do it right the first time. So a lot has gone into the thought process and the design of this facility, and I think at the end of the day, it's just going to be a marvelous thing for Pottawatomie County and Council Bluffs. So with that, that's what I have. That's our update, and we are happy to answer any questions. And thank all of you for your patience.
Yeah, sorry.
Going back, Paula, you mentioned what your CapEx was for projects this year. What was that dollar amount again?
116 million.
Yeah,
116.
yeah, and that's going to bump up pretty drastically with the other projects that we're going to add on there. So
I've got a couple that are landing too.
yeah, it'll be closer to, when we come back again, it'll be closer to the 500 million mark.
Outstanding.
We still got a couple months left.
Yeah.
Paula, with that new space that you're getting,
Yes.
have you put together a revenue and expense budget for that?
Somewhat, yes. We definitely know what the expenses are. Yeah. And the build out cost, obviously, the estimates. It's a heavy lift.
You need to hire somebody to run that?
No, Nikki Ferguson will be our advanced staff person, and she will be there running it. And it'll be a 24/7 facility that it'll have secured access via key code. And so, people will be coming and going. That's the way we're initially establishing it, unless we run into issues with that. That's the way we're going to keep it. But Nikki will be there normal business hours.
You expect it to be a revenue generator, though?
I expect it to hold its own at first, yes. And it could very well be a revenue generator at some point, maybe. But I'm not telling you that, Supervisor Wickman.
I also think that it'll be something that, parents at the field house that have their kids in sports all day want to go get a couple hours of work done, and they go over and pay $25 for the day. I think where it's located benefits that entire area.
And painstakingly, that has been an area, it is really dubbed the entertainment district, but it has been an area that has taken much longer to develop than I think originally intended when those buildings were put in. I know you're laughing, but it's true. And now we've got a lot of,
double those buildings.
yeah, we've got a lot of good synergies going down there right now and a lot of activity, and we definitely want to be part of that.
Yep.
And Tesla's building a new facility down there as well, as you know.
Yep.
So.
And I think you'll have some startups that launch that are looking for more space.
Well, and that's the majority of the interest that we have thus far, is from startups that are currently working out of their home or their garage or whatever. So,
All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
One last question for you. Paula,
Yes,
does that facility or that space still have a dirt floor?
Our section does not.
Oh, really?
Nope, our section does not. Our section actually has a concrete floor.
Well, that's awesome.
The other part of it, the additional square footage that is still available, does have a dirt floor still.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We
Yep,
appreciate
no,
it.
thank you.
Very good information.
Yep.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, next up, we have Rick Killian, Market President, Jason Hanson, President, Amy Olson, Senior Vice President, and Derek Holver, what's your
VP.
VP? Okay, Vice President. Rick?
Scott, you just took over all my thunder. That's all my role was gonna be, was introducing.
Well, I didn't make the agenda here. I'm just reading it off. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
You're not doing a slide presentation.
No. Well, again, good morning, everyone, and again, yes, I'm Rick Killian, and I serve as the Council Bluffs Market President for American National Bank. And again, as Scott mentioned, with me today is Jason Hanson, our President, Amy Olson, our Senior Vice President of Treasury Management, and Derek Polberg, Vice President of Commercial Banking. And again, we're happy to be here. It's been a while since the bank has made a little overview to the Board of Supervisors with our relationship that we've got with Potawatomi County. We've got 3 new faces on the board since the last time we were here with Supervisors Miller and Shea and Jorgensen. So it's a pleasure to be here and provide a little update. Again, we really appreciate the relationship American National Bank has with the county and the work that we do with Lee and Heather in the Treasurer's office. We've got a great working relationship, and also with Mitch as well. So again, our intent is to kind of, with what's going on in the whole banking environment since COVID and everything else is going on, just wanted to have the opportunity to kind of share with you how the county's funds are being managed and the financial strength and stability of American National Bank. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jason and let him kind of give you a little update.
Thanks so much, Rick, and thank you all for giving us the opportunity to come out and present. It's so important we can get the audience of our key client relationships to talk about what's changing in the banking environment. We all hear of some of the headwinds that are being faced, and these are different headwinds than what we saw during the Great Recession, which are predominantly credit and capital based. This has been a different sort of challenge. So we've had to pivot, all banks have, in terms of how we talk about the strength and stability and soundness of our institution. And it's not just about educating, and we've had to educate not just key client relationships on some of the changes in a really dynamic environment, but we've also had to give a similar presentation to our staff members who post Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank were concerned, and as well as our key community members who want to know that community banks are going to be here to continue to support their small businesses and their respective households. And so we really appreciate the opportunity to do that today. On our first slide here, I'm just going to give a generic overview on the safety and soundness and stability of American National Bank, and then in my next slide, I just have 2, I'm going to get into a little more granular detail. American National Bank remains highly rated, and we continue to have excellent safety ratings by third-party providers in measures of safety, including our investment, price stability, deposit stability, loan quality, liquidity, capital, and profitability. And we remain focused on stable investments, and this is really important. I'm going to talk more about this in my next slide, but we have no exposure in volatile business lines like cryptocurrency or venture capitalist loans. And we have a sound investment policy, so it mitigates risk while ensuring a consistent return for our shareholders. We have committed, clear priorities, and this is really important. We have always prioritized safety, soundness, and stability, profitability, and growth in that order. So one of the advantages of being a privately held bank with 2 predominant ownership families is that we don't have to make maybe some questionable long-term decisions to satisfy a short-term gain, because every 90 days we have to be on an earnings call. And people on earnings call care about shareholder return, earning per share. That's how they deem their value. Here, because we have 2 committed local decision-making, 2 ownership families, we're able to reprioritize that order and ensure the safety and soundness and stability of the bank first, then profitability, and then growth. Pride as a community bank, we remain diligent in monitoring and adapting to dynamic market conditions because we're local, because we're privately held, we're able to be a little bit quicker, a little bit more effective, and really committed to the communities we serve. And I look at who's here with us today, and Derek Colbert, who started about 10 years ago as a teller and is now a leader in our commercial banking group. Amy Olson, who for the last 5+ years has led our treasury management team to platform changes to increase functionality for our end users, product enhancements to ensure we're giving the most effective tools and most efficient tools to our client relationships. And then I don't need to read Rick's resume of how important he is to Council Bluffs, Potawatomi County, and for the last 22 years I've had the ability to witness that, and I think Rick is somebody we all look up to and admire for his commitment to public service in his role at the bank. And
Jason, will you speak up just a
oh,
little bit
I'm
more?
sorry.
Yeah, I liked hearing that too, Tim.
Yeah. I don't get a chance to highlight Rick's efforts and advocacy very often, so I don't want to miss the opportunity for what he means to our bank and by extension what he means to Potawatomi County, the city of Council Bluffs, and all of Southwest Iowa. Rick, I just want to thank you for what you continue to do for us. We want to turn the page real quick, and I don't want to bore anyone, and I don't want to. So if I'm saying something that's already been discussed, please let me know. And if you have any questions as we go along, happy to answer now or at the end of the presentation. This is a safety and soundness stability report for American National Bank as of 6/30/2023. If you look at some of the banks that were really challenged, that went under, and some of our regional and super regional banks that have experienced shareholder price challenges over the last 6 months, a lot of it has to do with the investment price stability, which is, every bank has a bond and securities portfolio in addition to a loan portfolio. And so if you look at what happened to Silicon Valley Bank, they essentially took short-term deposits that were in demand deposit accounts that have the duration of however long it takes for you to get on your phone and transfer money to a different bank account, and bought 30-year Ginnie Mae bonds. And so what happens there is, as rates moved up, they had what was called an unrealized loss within that respective security. And so it's important to know that American National Bank, if we had to liquidate, all of our securities are what's called available for sale. We can sell them at any time. So there's two ways of holding the securities: available for sale or a hold to maturity HTMs, which means you don't have a choice, you have to hold that to maturity. And what banks are able to do when you hold it to maturity, you don't have to make the mark-to-market adjustment every month to your capital ratios. And the mark-to-market is essentially your unrealized loss if you were to sell that security today. It's a paper loss, it's not an actual loss. If you hold it to maturity, you never absorb that loss. But if we were in some sort of liquidity crunch, if we had to liquidate our entire securities portfolio, we would have about a 16% depreciation of that portfolio today. While we would never want to do that, would never want to take a 16% hit to capital, it wouldn't be detrimental the way it was with some of these other banks that Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank and PacWest that experience some of this. And because we don't hold anything to maturity, we're not hiding any sort of capital deterioration. So every month we have a mark to market, which means we either have unrealized gain or loss and book it against capital. So we know our clients, our team knows exactly where we're at in terms of the stability within our investment book. Deposit stability. This is really vital. What was really challenging for those respective institutions I talked about earlier that 6 months ago were put in receivership is less than 10% of their deposits had FDIC insurance. So every entity, every tax ID number has up to $250,000 of FDIC insurance. Once you go over that deposit is no longer considered just the first $250,000. So you want to look at how much concentration risk do you have within your deposit portfolio. And as of 6/30, we had a little over 60% of our deposits were insured, which is very healthy. And we credit an awful lot of that to the diversity we have. We are still a brick and mortar retail bank. We have 37 brick and mortar locations. We have a lot of retail and community bank deposits. We know where our niche is within the commercial banking and small business unit, and we've invested resources from a platform and people standpoint to ensure we can grow that market private sector. We really enjoy the government and municipality space. We have a lot of expertise there, but we don't go chasing a lot of hot money to beef up our deposit numbers. You're never gonna see us add $25 million depositor because we offered them 6% on a CD. Because if you're coming to us just for rate, you're gonna leave us just for rate the next time something better comes. And so anything over 50% is considered fairly healthy, and we like being in that 60 to 65%. Loan quality. This is a traditional measure that regardless of whatever environment you're in, good, bad, or somewhere in between, you always want to have safe and sound lending practices. We have a very low level of non-performing loans and a relatively conservative lending and investing practice. Like I indicated earlier, niche industries, venture capitalism, or crypto, we lend to people we know, we lend to projects that are within our community. It just provides a safe tool of us understanding how to monitor those respective clients and ensure that our credit portfolio is as strong as it can possibly be. Liquidity. This is the first time, I'll be honest, in my 23 years at American National Bank, we've openly talked about liquidity because the market dynamic has changed. The industry has changed. And so we have an internal guideline where we don't want to ever have less than $1.5 billion of liquidity. And by that, that's cash, that's your investments, that's availability we have through our Federal Home Loan Bank line. And as of, I think, the end of August, we were north of $1.7 billion, which is 36% of our entire balance sheet we have in terms of liquidity. And why that's important, it means do we have enough money to keep lending? Do we have enough money if there ever was a run on the bank to continue to meet our obligations? And we feel really healthy, and that's a really big percentage of your balance sheet to have in liquidity. Profitability, we continue to be recognized as a high-performing bank through either ROA or ROE measures as identified by our bank regulators and third-party rating agencies. And lastly, all our capital ratios have been well above regulatory minimums, and that's going to continue to be our MO, so to speak. And a lot of these are because we have the advantage of being a privately held bank that values safety, soundness, and stability more than profitability and growth. And please don't take it that our ownership doesn't care about profitability. They very much do, but they're not willing to sacrifice it to provide unnecessary risk within our balance sheet or our capital ratios. Sorry, that was a lot to digest, and certainly open to answer any questions, or either now or after Amy's done presenting.
Well,
We're gonna dive, oh, sorry.
I'm sure I'll have some questions.
Look forward to
I'll
it.
wait for Amy to finish hers.
I'm going to dive a little bit more into how the funds are for Potawatomi County. The Iowa Public Funds Investment Standards are met. We do a combination of funds that are held on book at American National Bank and funds that are held off book through IntraFi insured cash sweeps. Funds held on book for public entities requires collateralization according to the Iowa state standards. American National Bank certainly meets those. This includes certain eligible investments, letters of credit, or private insurance. To this point, American National Bank is utilizing securities for the collateral requirements for the funds held on book. The funds pushed off book goes to IntraFi, which is a network of participating banks that each take funds in increments just under the $250,000 FDIC insurance that Jason talked about, thus keeping all funds in that program FDIC insured, which also meets the Iowa state statute requirements. And all funds on both sides of the house are totally liquid. Any questions on that piece?
I got a question. Is this Lee's always getting harangued by the gentleman from IPATE, and I'm sure Iowa Public Agency Investment Trust are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with
Is
it. That
so
is
is
not
this
part of IntraFi.
No. Is IntraFi similar to IPATE?
No,
Where
that's
there's
a
pooled
trust
funds?
that's held at the state level.
Right.
And it's more, I think, and I can't speak to it, you would have to go down that side, but I think it's more of like an investment type vehicle. This is truly just monies that are held in banks.
Okay.
On the balance sheet of banks. So whereas we send money out into the participating banks, the concept is that it goes out in increments under the $250,000 to keep it 100% FDIC insured, thus meeting those state statute
requirements.
All right, thanks.
Amy, real quick, I don't know if you're gonna touch on that or not, but if Potawatomi County had $20 million in American National Bank and it crashed, how much money do we have after it crashes?
No, at least $20 million. So the Iowa state statute requirement is collateralized at least at 102% over the fund's holding. So whether it's held on book or off book at American National Bank, it's 100% plus guaranteed funds. So there's no risk if there was a takeover by the FDIC of public fund entities. And that's generally speaking, that's not just for Potawatomi County. Public funds are looked at differently than private funds held at the financial institution. And Iowa state statute requirements are what drive the collateralization of those requirements. Now, having said at least, we're collateralized more, but we're not giving you more. The next page, I wanted to provide a look at the account structure for Potawatomi County. This page outlines the divisions, the types of accounts that are held within those divisions, and then the treasury management services that are corresponding. It's very well organized. Each subdivision kind of having its own line, its own accounts, its own treasury management services to not commingle more than necessary. The next page, while this contains a lot of granular information, I wanted to highlight the well-organized structure of the county and really highlight Lee's approach to maximizing earnings. There's a utilization of sweeps that moves money between accounts. We have a super money market. This is that money on book. It's currently paying 4.80%. We push money off book into the ICS. That also is paying 4.80%. So at this point, it's been very well managed with that emphasis on maximizing the earnings and keeping a sound structure. And I kind of went down through all of the different divisions kind of with that same look. And then at the bottom right is the year-to-date interest paid, gross fees minus fees that the bank waives, minus earnings credit, which is essentially interest to the extent of offsetting service charges, and then what that net service charging has been so far this year. And this is all as of July, the end of July.
So the year-to-date interest paid is as of July 1 of
The end of July, so July 30.
Oh.
First? Is there 31 days in July?
Yeah.
July 31st.
But that number, let's just call it 1.3 million, that is as of January 1st?
That would be interest that the bank has paid to the county from January 1st through July 31st.
Okay.
The August numbers don't come in. They actually ran analysis last night, so I didn't have enough time to put in August into the picture, but that would have been from January 1 to July 31.
At 4.8. At 4.8.
Well, there's certainly been interest changes over the course of that time. The current rate is at 4.8.
What's the one account that's 407 Leanne Boss?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you,
Well,
Scott.
it's the account on that page that's the first section there near the bottom. It says it's .047.
The account title.
Yeah,
I'm
Leanne
guessing
Boss.
that's an account that's been open for years and years. The subtitle on the account, Lee just has your name on it, like Potawatomi County, Lee Boss is a subtitle. It just pulled in the treasurer's name into the subtitle of the account. It's not funds that are anything personally of Lee's. And in any
What
way.
What account is
I
it?
think back in the day when accounts were open, it pulled in kind of that first name
That was
signer.
in 1977.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
can't be
understand.
responsible for
So
that.
when
I'm
I
only
started, they
5 years.
put it on.
Yeah.
And then just one other question. A portion of, if I'm correct, a portion of the charge is an insurance that you have to pay for because of the amount of money that we keep within your bank structure, isn't it?
There is still FDIC insurance, so that does, that is a component of it in a typical bank, but at American National Bank, we're not actually charging depositor insurance. So that number that you're seeing in gross fees, that's just your treasury management fees. That's the fees to collect and move money.
Okay, thank you.
Great question, Scott.
Real quick, are there other government entities that you manage their accounts for? Other
Yes.
Counties, other,
Okay.
okay, both sides of the river, I imagine? Both sides of the river?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can you
yes,
give me-
yes.
can you give me an
Both sides
example?
are- Yes.
Can you
Oh,
give-
yes.
Can you
School
give me an
district.
example of other accounts that you might manage? Is that a possibility?
We can certainly do that, but we would of course not do that without their permission.
Okay.
But that's something that we could follow up with you if you want.
Yeah, I'd be interested
kind
to
of
see
a
what other
referral.
accounts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great question.
School districts,
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So there's a
cities.
lot of them.
Cities, school districts, municipalities,
Counties.
utilities.
So you're very, very well versed in
It's one of our niches, one
Public-
of our
public
niches.
accounts,
We
okay.
Really like to take part in.
And the final page is just a highlight on the commercial card program in partnership with Mitch K. We implemented a full commercial card program for 20 of the Pottawatomie County divisions. What this did was consolidated all of the spend to maximize a cash rebate incentive program. Thank you, Mitch.
Got any other questions? Concerns, anybody?
Well, as Rick said in the beginning, we certainly appreciate your relationship with American National
Yeah.
Bank. I work with many of you. I appreciate the partnership, collaboration. It works well, and I'm certainly here to do anything that you guys need now or in the future.
But how's your relation with our treasurer's office?
I have a very tight relationship with the treasurer's office. Pretty sure I could call him on speed dial. No, it works well.
She does a great job.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, we have a great relationship. I
Except
hope you
for that
feel the
one
same.
account.
We do.
Their own name on it. No, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to say that Heather and I dressed up today because we wanted to look as nice as American National Bank. And I borrowed my sister's dress, so anyway. You know, when we need something or we have an issue or something, you know, we can call Amy right away and they get on it. And, you know, to me, that's a plus because I don't want to call somewhere and push a button and I'm on hold. They don't put us on hold. You know, maybe that's a good relationship that, you know, we need, I think, in this time era that, you know, you can't get a hold of anybody. And we need an answer right now when we have these big funds that we're depositing them. You know, and, you know, kudos to Heather. Heather started 26 years ago on day one, I think, doing the finances and that. And me, the statute pillar's been doing it for 46 years. You know, that's 60-some years of experience in finances and investments and that. And American National Bank helps us get through that. You know, so I think we do an exceptional job and so do they. And they help us, you know. I mean, we can ask any question, ask Rick, you know, whoever. I'm gonna get Derek's number. But, you know, I just feel that we have a good relationship and they're close. They're right up the 2 blocks away and I can get in my car and I can go up there if there's a situation.
and she has.
I have, you know, I have drove up there and, you know, got it resolved and I never have to wait for an answer. So, you know, I don't want to be on the phone. So they do a really good job for us.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
That was all paid for.
Local connection is important.
That was on what fund?
Local connection is really important.
Well, I think so, you know, and I think that's a big plus. You know, you can talk to them normally and not, you know, they don't treat you like a number or a, you know, they know your name, they know what your children's names are and, you know, so. Thank you.
Jason, Rick, Amy, Derek, thanks for coming, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee, Heather, thanks for popping in.
Thank you.
Next up, next up, we have Matt Wyatt, Planning and Development Director. It's just an update on, because we don't have the contract on the Boyd Jones contract. So I told him it's just an update, Matt.
Yes.
On this.
Thank you.
We got, we need to get a CIP group put together, update, find out where all we're at. What the state, do we know what the state's gonna do yet?
It's still a work in progress on what the state has going on with their contract program
And then
alignment.
how much did we shorten this thing up, original size down to what?
We're talking about the public
We're
health
at
building,
15,000 square feet, just over 15,000 square feet.
And what were we up to originally?
25, we were 25, almost 26.
25 to 15?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we were hoping to come in today. I have Leela with Boyd Jones, Sarah with Field Day, Maria, you all know her. We've been really going back and forth on the contract documents. We were hoping to have the contract documents ready to present to you. They're not quite finalized yet, so we're asking that if we can push this a week to next week, and then that way we'll have the contract documents available for your packets on Thursday, and you'll have ample time to then review those. They have been reviewed by myself, the county attorney's office, Boyd Jones, and Field Day as well. But we feel like we're all sitting at a really good point on the project and excited for the potential of it.
Okay. Any questions?
So you're gonna come back, explain the project, the costs, provide us in advance the contract. The negotiations with the state for space, was never figured into the cost of the project, so is that correct? That's correct, right?
That's correct. We knew that we have to offer them one space currently, and so that's already figured into our annual budget every year.
But public health is changing every day. We could very possibly end up housing WIC as well, is that correct?
We will be housing WIC, yes.
Okay.
That's
So
federal though.
that,
Well, WIC changed to county around 2019, 2020.
Really?
They changed the program where it has to be aligned with a county board of health.
Okay.
So that's a
But it's
competitive
federal
grant.
funds.
It is federal funds that come to the state,
State.
that then come to us, and that's the majority of the work that we have, or start out as federal funds, go to the state, and then get contracted to us.
If the state doesn't mess that up.
I mean, they take their piece off the top, of course, yes.
Well,
So-
this regional piece is the piece that we gotta get figured out.
It is, when we started in 2017, the first thing Marie and I did was read the strategic plan of Iowa Department of Public Health at the time. In their strategic plan, it was to regionalize public health. So we have made sure that every piece that we have put together on this, that we think at a regional level, not just Potawatomi County. We currently operate on a regional level in a number of our programs. And even through the COVID-19 pandemic, we operated at a regional level and by delivering out vaccine to all of the other counties. So that's always the consideration we take. We want to make sure that that regional hub stays with Potawatomi County. We're the population base of Southwest Iowa. We're the best equipped to handle all scenarios and related to the programs with that.
so there's some possible revenue coming in from those other, WIC and maybe the space for the state, but that's just gonna help you with the operation of the facility. It doesn't go towards the construction of the project.
Correct.
There is a little bit that can come into construction, so, I believe the furniture for the WIC area and some of the computer pieces, there's funds for that under their program.
Well, and we're still looking at the possibility of opioid funds for some things, right? Are we working on that?
A small portion of it we can potentially utilize that if the space is dedicated towards opioid. The opioid funding, you know, is very restrictive and it has to be dedicated towards opioid abuse, and so we just have to be careful.
And I would say that all of the other grants that we have, we're still continuing to look through them and determine on if there's any of that funding that we can use towards the building.
We have recently added in Title X family planning. The state came to us and asked us to assume that program for Southwest Iowa. So that's a program that we're working on right now. And have been, well, we've been writing policies and procedures for it for the last 6 months.
Well, I appreciate the efforts you've put in to get us this far. So, look forward to next week.
Any other questions for anybody? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thanks.
in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Next up, Jeff Franco, Deputy Director Conservation, discussion and or decision to approve welding contract for pump station at Mount Crescent Ski area.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So this bid was for connecting the pipes that are coming into the building to the actual pump stations themselves. So this would be the welding work.
Can you speak up a
Yep,
little,
I'm
Jeff?
sorry.
We've got,
I
This
think the
bid,
fan's running up here, so
yeah,
it's
got
bothering
extra
us.
noise today.
this bid will be for connecting the pipes coming into the pump house to the pump stations itself. So there's a lot of welding work that needs to be done to get that accomplished. So that's what this bid was for. This particular contractor was highly recommended by Techno-Alpha. They've done a lot of work on the Techno-Alpha systems. And so they had a lot of confidence in these guys to get it done and do it well and do it good for us.
I don't know if you have been updated or kept up to date on the local option sales tax that comes into conservation. Those funds are up. In July of, I should have given you this information, I hate to hit you in the face with it, but I'm gonna. In July, ending this last fiscal year, that local option sales tax had a balance of $194,564. Is there any reason why this project can't be funded through that?
I think the reason we chose to go with the funding course that we did was that this was initially included in the allocation that we discussed with $2 million transferred to the ski hills earlier this year.
Can it be funded out of local option sales tax?
It'd be something I'd have to check with Mark Shoemaker on. I know he keeps that budget fairly tight with what his projected expenses are as well. The local option sales tax.
Ending fund balance, July of 21, 152,000. July of 21, 147. July of 22, 236. July of 23, 194. This is important to get the project rolling, right? This welding project.
It is, yes.
Well, I'll move it forward with the expense coming out of the local option sales tax fund.
If allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to wait to see if that can be made? That can be possible? Is that a possibility, or you guys
No.
want to just go ahead and? Yeah, okay, I'll second that.
If not, it's gonna come back.
I can't vote on this if I don't know who the vendor is, and the vendor's not published in my packet.
Gotcha, yeah, the PDF name, I believe, had it on there, but it's Mackenzie Welding is the name of the company that would be doing it.
And where are they out of?
They are out of Ohio.
Thus the housing requirement. There's no one local that can do this.
There's nobody local who has the expertise with these types of systems. I think that's what's really gonna be important, is each of these, whether it's a DMAC Blanco system or a Techno-Alpha system, they have their own specifics that it pays to make sure that whoever's putting it together really understands the system, kind of some of the nuance of that system. And so if we go with somebody local, there would be a large learning curve. It may slow the project down. And I imagine that the price would be, I guess I can't say it for sure, but would be similar, if not a little more, given their uncertainty with the project. Mackenzie, this is what they do. They install a lot of technological systems. They travel around. It's part of how they operate. And so they'd be very efficient with this as well.
And how long do they think it'll take from start to finish?
They plan to be on site about a month.
How long? Okay.
Jeff, how are all these projects coming along for the opening season?
So actually coming along very well. The pipe install started last week, and they got off to a start that was a little bit slow, just with getting some of the stuff together. But I was just communicating with Chris Andrew out there. He's expecting that they'll probably average somewhere between 300 and 400 feet a day of pipe install, which is going to put them ahead of schedule.
So things look pretty good for opening day.
Things will look very good.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, next up, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, we have John Rasmussen, engineer, discussion and or decision on petition requirements. John?
Brought the road improvement policy, didn't put this on the agenda, so I guess kind of like to revisit what we've been doing if you want to change that up, keep moving forward with it, or anything else.
Are you talking about honeysuckle?
No, just future petitions.
Future petitions, okay.
I did make a copy of our policy. You got it.
I asked to have this put on so that this board can make a decision on where we want to move forward. Obviously, the honeysuckle petition was a disaster from the start. And a 50% requirement's not enough. It needs, well, I'm gonna let John keep going for a second. John, what was it previously, before it was changed?
This thing's changed several times. Originally, we did 100%, and that was people that wanted to participate. Did that for about 15 years. So the petition was written for the people that wanted it, and willing to pay for it. Came to the board at 100%. The people who were opposed were left off the petition. I guess that was how I interpreted the code. Then working through with Leanne, it should be everybody in the district. So then we opened that up, and we had to kind of draw a line in the sand, what percentage. So currently, we have the Iowa code at 50% for 311.6. There's a 311.7, which is improvement by private funds. So the people who want to improve it could put the funds in there. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a special assessment. That percentage was 75% if you wanted to use that code section. So I think there's a question there for the board as far as what you want to see on that percentage before a petition makes it to you. 50% was entirely too tight, I guess. That comes down to one person out there, potentially. And in the past, it happened that way. So I think that's the first consideration for you guys and following along in this code section. Probably the next potential item was in paragraph 8 of our policy. We set the county's contribution by traffic count. So originally when I started, the county participated $0. There was, when we started, this cost $18,000 a mile now, and it's about $320 a mile. So the costs have really grown. I think it was Tom Hannafin wanted to get into where the county would participate, and we're trying to figure out a fair way of doing that. Not a whole lot of, we're keeping it objective and not really subjective to politics or anything else local. So we use the DOT traffic count. There's a ton of research on how much gravel you need and how much gravel you lose just based on traffic count. So those are easy numbers to put in there. Obviously in our case, there was a DOT error. So that was the downside. We avoid doing local counts because we'd put counters out there, then people could just drive on them and that would skew the whole thing. So The DOT count just seemed like a fair way of assessing those costs. So that's probably another question for you was what should the county contribute into these projects? Iowa code's gonna limit you to 50%. Petitioners have to pay at least 50%. The county cannot pay more than 50. Matt's in the room and I feel weird quoting code while attorney's in the back, but jump on me if I'm wrong, I guess.
I'm the best.
So again, we have those two issues. The 75% kind of goes to that 311.7 that allows them to pay ahead of the assessment. I really think that's the better way to go. Then paragraph 10 in our policy is probably the next issue that continues to be a struggle, and that's where we apportion the cost to the petitioners. Originally, I think my predecessors kind of been through the middle with that because they did a lot of these in the 80s and 90s. They finally got to where it was equal portion on each parcel. So it didn't matter if you had 40 acres or a home or whatever you had, it was the same amount for everybody in the district. We kind of got through some of that, and you guys wanted to maybe make that more fair for the agricultural property that's not developed versus a property that has a home and would get more value out of it. So we worked on kind of a bracketing system to break down those parcels and kind of make them fit into a bell curve. Obviously, you can't. You guys want to talk about bell curves probably, but it's hard to fit a small number of parcels into a bell curve. So it didn't work real well on the smaller petitions. You know, if you had a larger petition that had 60-some parcels in it, it probably would work a lot better. So that's probably another question that has come up, and you know, we're just trying to draw a local flavor and what the board wants to see. So apportionment would be another question for you all. Finally, in paragraph 11, you know, we tried to identify what parcels should be in the district and what should not. I kind of in retrospect, I think they should all just be in there, and they come to public hearing and you guys can exclude them because there's just so much detail in there. But we tried to identify them, like if they don't have current or possible future access, we let them be excluded. They're vacant or have topography such that the construction is not feasible, they're also excluded. And if they don't have the minimum lot dimensions, they're excluded. And there's several points there, but we kind of built in the exclusions, and I'm not sure in retrospect if that's something better handled in the public hearing. And that's pretty much all we have in the policy. Everything else kind of follows Iowa code closely, but there's those areas that's the board's discretion, and I'm trying to apply it to the petitioners. Know that it worked all that great last go around.
Matt Wilbur, well, while we look at this, no question's a dumb question, right? Can this,
You say so.
Can this board put a moratorium on?
Yeah, that's an easy one, yes. Chapter 311(1A just says that the board may on petition allow the establishment of secondary road districts, which means you do not have to allow them. So if you wanted to put a temporary moratorium on them until you had your policies in a different position that you wanted to, you'd be well within interest.
Are we able to do that with today's item on the agenda?
I don't know, I mean, it's not super clear. I mean, I would have preferred that it say petition requirements for secondary road assessment districts as opposed to just petition requirements, because that doesn't really specify much. It's probably okay, but I'd probably suggest that you make it a little bit more specific of an agenda item to deal with the next week. You're probably okay today. I'm telling you, if you want to be safe, then I'd make it more specific and deal with it next week.
Okay, let me ask you this, will you defend the board's decision if we do it today?
I told you you're probably okay.
Okay.
That'll be my argument.
I'm not prepared to vote on this today. I need more
No,
data.
no, I'm not
Okay.
pushing that. What I wanna do is make sure we don't get ourselves in another mess like the one we were just in.
Exactly.
And if we could put a moratorium on it for a period of time, give us 30 days to hash this out, I'm fine with that. You know, in any government entity, in order for them to tax someone involuntarily, is if a referendum is passed and the minimum requirement for that is 60%. So, while we'll have time to discuss this later, that's where as I would be as a minimum. But what I don't want to have is 5 more petitions come in the next week and we're stuck at 50%, because that is absolutely not fair. And as John mentioned, another one of our considerations, it has to be, even though it's not on today's agenda, maybe I ought to hold that conversation until we put it back on the agenda. I will. So I will make a motion to put a moratorium for 30 days minimum. No, let's go 60 days for any property assessment road petitions to the county.
I'll second that. You know, the fact that it was moved down to 50%, now it's a moot point, but I have no I don't know why that all came about. It seemed like it was a moving target for quite a while. But I agree, you know, these need to be set.
Yeah, we need a fairer way to assess the property owners for the project, because right now it's not fair. We have a property in this project that this board approved with a $200,000 assessed value paying $5,000. And we have an assessed value property, $900,000, which is 4.5 times the value of the 200,000, only paying twice as much.
Right.
So there was absolutely nothing, anyway. There's nothing fair about it, in my opinion. But, I mean, the board decided to move in a different direction, so that's it, something we can discuss on a different period of time.
So we have a motion for a 60-day moratorium by Supervisor Wickman and a second by Supervisor Shortens.
And John, you have not received any petitions in your office currently that fall.
There's some requests for one, yes, but I haven't written, there's not a petition out, there's an interest petition on Lime Kiln Road.
Okay, but you have not received
No.
a petition that we need to act upon.
No, and there's none circulating.
Okay.
There's some interest.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we have Maria Sieg, Administrator of Public Health, discussion and decision to approve county funding for flu shots for part-time employees. Maria?
Good morning.
Morning.
The reimbursement for flu shots for county employees without county insurance is something that the board does every year. The cost difference this year is that the vaccine cost has gone up about 35 cents. So it's a little over $19 per vaccination. In the past, we've had up to about 10 of our 60 part-time employees that have taken advantage of this. So it would, we're looking at a total cost of around $200. That's kind of what we're looking at.
So this wouldn't be extended to our part-time temporary conservation employees?
It's the main departments that have about 30 of those employees would be the court security, public health to include WIC, some of the conservation people too. But a lot of the, like the seasonal temporary, if they're not here, really wouldn't apply to them. The flu shot clinics that we have scheduled are on September 26th, it's a Tuesday, at the Veterans Service Office from 11:30 to 1. That's our main flu shot clinic. Families invited to that. And Public Health recoups the cost by submitting it to insurance to get that cost back to us. But we'll also be offering the vaccination at the wellness screenings. So and that's more of an opportunity. We're hoping that people come in for when we're set up specifically for flu shot vaccinations, but we will have that opportunity at the wellness screenings and then walk-ins available at public health.
So the anticipated expense is a couple $100.
Yeah.
So you could use the funds that are already put into the wellness committee budget? And if that went over, we'll cover it?
The board has given us the wellness committee budget for that. It's certainly something that can go back towards that budget.
Well, I mean, last year you turned some funds back?
I'm sure we did, yeah.
It is so minimal.
Right.
I mean, if you want a motion to approve giving flu shots for our part-time employees, funded out of the wellness committee budget?
Sure.
Absolutely, I'll do that for you.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
I've never received a flu shot, never in my life. So I don't want the flu, that's just my.
That's the problem.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, hearing none, motion passes. Okay, we've got updates from the board members on committee meetings from the past week.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Jeff, you got anything?
Yeah, I was at the VA meeting yesterday, and there's things going on. It was a short meeting, but they're kind of got things in the works, looking to capitalize on more federal funding that they weren't aware of at one point. So wait and see what happens.
One of your VA board members passed away yesterday or the day before, maybe? Bob Jorgensen?
Yes, I did hear that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know him.
Okay. Well, you might want to pass that along to shoot.
Peggy?
Peggy, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Susan?
I attended the Golden Hills Resource meeting. The SWIPCO had a real quick meeting over the phone on Thursday, and we're still working on onboarding our new WIDA director. And I hope to get her in here so we can get some introductions made. So.
Good, good. Tim?
Yeah, as you probably noticed in the email from Jeanette, just want to try to get a direction from the board on which way you want to go. There is a magistrate nominating commission that we're responsible for. There is one member who resigned. We need to fill that position. Do we want to consider bringing up names, or do you want to consider putting out an application for that?
Is there requirements for that?
I sent an email to Matt, and he said that pretty much any lay person can serve. It cannot be a attorney or a current law enforcement or peace officer.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to read the code yet.
Yeah.
It's a matter of picking somebody to appoint going through the application process. I mean, I think we need to get on it. There must be a reason they sent that to us so quickly.
How many members are on that board?
3.
3 on that commission? Well, sure, when one's gone, you need to fill it quickly.
Application process takes about a month.
I think we could probably fill it by solicitation and not with the application. It's not a paid position, correct?
I don't know how much they meet or anything.
You know what, I can't tell you if it's paid or not. I will just say that, the board a few years ago, got out of the business of appointing people who they felt were qualified for the position and went to the application process. So all of our boards and commissions go through the application process. That's my recommendation, but I wanted to see what you guys wanted to do.
Well, Tim, I certainly agree with you.
I mean, anybody in this room, yeah, they can serve. So, get your applications in.
Yeah, you just need to let them know what the qualifications and what the commitment is. Yeah.
If it's okay, I'll work with Jen on getting an application put together for your booster.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Okay, and next up, we got public comment. We got any public comment today? No public comment?
There is none.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
I don't know, ask him, he's the
Yeah.
chairman.
Okay.
I just work here.
To make a public
Can I get
comment,
your name
do you
and-
have to sign up
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
in advance?
yeah.
And
Okay,
you
sign
do that
up.
before the meeting?
Yeah,
Or during the meeting.
or during the meeting.
Okay, well, I guess I can make it.
Okay.
You gonna sign in?
It's too late right now, though, right?
No.
No.
No, with the meeting still going on,
Okay,
sign up,
okay.
Do you
I'm
want
over
gonna,
here, go
okay.
over here and
You gonna
sign up.
wait?
I just had a question I can probably ask later, so I don't think I'll sign it, but thank you for letting me know about the process. Just had a question for later.
Yeah, you stop in next Tuesday, sign up on that sheet,
I will
name and
do,
address.
I will do.
You're more than welcome to sign the sheet, do it right now if you want.
Well, sometimes what you don't say instead of what you said, I just had a question.
Okay.
I'll ask later.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for everybody coming.